This is our first wellness lunch and learn, and we're going to have many more to come, so I hope you guys get excited. Today we're going to have Mindy Wade talk to us, and she's from Manna Plus, and we've had her before, and everybody said that they really enjoyed her. So, Mindy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, fantastic. I'm really excited to be here, and we had a lot of fun the last time, or at least I did, so I plan to do the same and have even more fun now. I'm passing around a sign-up sheet. If you wouldn't mind signing that for me, that would be wonderful when that gets to you. And also, I'm passing out a handout, and this basically is all filled in for you. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that are on here today. I will cover some other things, so I'm not just reading you the handout. But that way you go home with a solid set of information. You don't have to worry about, writing down everything. You can enjoy your lunch, actually eat, and get some things done. So I'll go ahead and let you guys distribute those and just pass those around. All right. So we do have a nice PowerPoint, so we have some good visual pictures for you today. And not all the PowerPoint is my design, so a lot of this I took from one of my mentor's presentations, and then I modified it a little bit to make it fit well for us today. So, all right. So let's take a look at, first I'll just tell you a little bit. Who was in your class the last time I did the meeting here? Any of you? Couple, so we have a lot of new people. All right, I'll give you just a little bit of background, and so that you know why I'm up here doing what we're doing. And I'm a natural health professional. I'm also a biofeedback specialist and a minister. I work with my mother, who's Ann Wade. She's a board-certified naturopathic doctor, and she's been in business for about 21 years. And we do consultations, we do teachings. Consultations spends most of our days working with all different kinds of illness and diseases from a holistic standpoint. So we can talk more about that later, but that's a lot of fun, and we help a lot of people, so you're welcome to grab one of our brochures and talk to us more about that also. And we are located close to Waldron, and I put our website on the bottom there. All right. So we have a lot of information. I want to kind of give us a little bit of a background before we jump into the natural things that we can use to boost our immune system. We decided to talk about colds and flus and our immune system since we're coming into the cold and flu season. So we thought this would be a great time to have this topic so we can be prepared for it. So we're going to talk a little bit about microbes, which are the germs, that type of thing that we have. And we know that I'm just going to do a little bit of a history lesson, which is very short and not that far back in history. But about 30 years ago, our U.S. Surgeon General decided, hey, we've got this thing. With the new technology, the new antibiotics and chemicals we're producing in the medical field, we are going to beat microbes, germs eliminated, problem solved. Well, if you've looked around lately, you can probably pretty much figure out that hasn't been the case. We're not too on the upside on this war against germs. We're actually quite behind. So we now have antibiotic-resistant strains of bacteria, which you've probably heard of. You've probably heard that term, or superbugs, or different things like this. And we're going to get into the whys and how that happened a little bit and what we can do about it. Another thing that has contributed to this, where we're not winning this war, is excessive disinfectant use or excessive use of antibiotics in general, and overuse of chemicals. And this not only happens in humans, but even the overuse of antibiotics in animals. This has contributed to this situation that we have right now. So the microbes develop a resistance to the medications that we currently have. All right, so why should we turn to something natural? I mean, seems like the medical field has a pretty good handle on this, and the technologies that are out there we should have, right? Well, we know that if we still have all these superbugs, then obviously something's gone amiss. Fighting infection is usually one thing that we consider our orthodox medicine to be good at. But something about antibiotics that you may or may not know is antibiotics are really effective for bacterial infections. But if you have a viral or a fungal infection or other types, it's not even going to begin to touch it because that's not what it's designed to kill and go after. And so sometimes are given for these conditions, quite frequently they're still given for these conditions, and then that's when the body begin resistant to them because you're using things that aren't working and on an overuse basis. Okay, so natural remedies are broad spectrum, a lot of them, and different herbs will correlate, or different formulas will correlate across the board, and with different infections, viruses, fungus, bacteria. And another thing that we're going to be focusing on is actually building our own body's immune system, which is the way that several natural remedies work, so that our body can take care of the situation itself, which is the way it was designed to function. We're actually supporting and strengthening the body's function, which is a great way to go. That's what we want to do. So that's why natural remedies are really effective, in some places where the antibiotics can't hit, like colds and flus and certain sinus congestions, because these can be virus caused, and fungus even. So, all right. And how many of you have taken an antibiotic and had a side effect before? A few of you. We know that, those can come with, little side effects, big side effects, but either way, normally they are not fun. Diarrhea, it's kind of, usually probably the first one. Rashes, allergic reactions, even some things as far as even some of the antibiotics are damaging to our kidney and our liver and bone marrow. And those are things we really don't want if we can do without that, for sure. So one of the reasons that we get diarrhea and allergies like that, reactions like that, is because the antibiotics disrupt our friendly flora, or our good bacteria. Now, how many of you are familiar with that term? Is that Greek to you, or you guys have probably heard it? It seems like the TV is being bombarded right now with a lot of commercials about probiotics, right? You've probably seen those on TV. Well, friendly bacteria, or flora, good flora, those are kind of used interchangeably, and those are the good, healthy, friendly bacteria in our gut, in our intestinal tract. We need those. They keep us healthy, and they're a good part of our immune system. When those get out of balance, then we can have a yeast overgrowth, or our immune system becomes weakened and becomes subject to other infections easier. And they can become imbalanced. One of the major ways they become imbalanced is with antibiotic use, because it's a broad spectrum bacteria, antibacteria, anti-life. So it's killing good and bad and everything in between. And that is one of the problems of why it can create side effects. Okay, so those are our little bacterias over there, and some of them are happy and some of them don't look very happy, but we know that's basically just reinstating, we want to make sure we take care of our good friendly bacteria because it takes care of us. And when we're using natural substances and herbs and herb combinations, they actually support our body's friendly bacteria growth, and they definitely aren't going to kill it off, and they support its own personal growth. So that's another really good reason to bring these in to our lives. All right, so reason number 3 why antibiotics are having trouble beating this war against germs is because we've developed resistance to them. And we've already touched on this, and I'm moving through this stuff fairly quickly because we want to get to the good stuff about what we can do for our immune systems. But we know that we've had these superbugs. And have you guys been hearing about superbugs and these resistant strains and different infections where, the medical field says we don't really have an answer for this. You might, in some cases, such as MRSA and things like that, people have lost limbs, etc. Not a fun place to be at all. But the herbal kingdom has answers for this because bacteria and certain infections don't become resistant to the herbal formulas and herbal substances. So, all right. So we know that there's lots of statistics about it. Even a Harvard professor, he has recently said that he believes that 80 to 90% of infections shortly down the road will be resistant to all antibiotics. So we're not headed in that right direction. And many medical doctors have started cutting back, which, the AMA has actually advised, I would say probably even 3 years ago, they advised medical doctors to stop prescribing certain antibiotics to children for ear infections because they knew this isn't working, it's just making it worse and making that child sicker in the long run. So the doctors that are heeding that, are starting to realize, hey, we've got to do something a little bit different here to treat this body wholly. All right. And antibiotics, just like we talked, they're killing good and bad bacteria, so they're not strengthening our system. They have one job, and that's to go in and kill bacteria. But if we can look at something naturally that does strengthen our system, we're going to be better off for the long run and be healthier. Okay, and I just wanted to throw this in really quick and short about the flu shots. We could spend all day here, but I feel like if I didn't say anything about it, somebody would probably ask, because it is, the elephant in the room, so to speak, when we're talking about colds and flus. One study that was done showed that flu shots were just as effective, colostrum, taking a colostrum supplement was just as effective. Actually, the study showed more effective in healthy individuals and people with high risk, more of a health issue in their body currently. That colostrum, taking that was more effective than a flu shot. And I would just encourage you to do your own research on that. There's a great website. Dr. Sherry Tenpenny offers a lot of information about some of the underlying studies that were done and those truths and that kind of thing. And if you want to talk to me more about that later, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you'd have. Okay. So we know that besides antibiotics, we need that healthy, friendly bacteria. Remember that I said that supports our own immune system. That's a huge part of it, actually. And children, there were studies done where children who were allowed to, they were raised in the country, played outside, played in the dirt, whatever, played with animals, they actually were healthier and had less instances of asthma and allergies and just overall health than children that were raised in a home where the mother, and of course being well-meaning, by all means, doing the best that we think we're doing, was sanitizing everything and sterilizing everything with all kinds of chemicals. Because our body actually being exposed to some microbes is good for us because it allows the immune system to develop and the good microbes to develop as well. Where if we have too much chemicals and too much sanitizers in a chemical form, that actually tears down our skin, the immune system part of our skin, and can cause more of a weakened immune system over a long period of time. So that is one of the contributions to everything that's going on in society right now. All right. And we know that natural remedies, which we have our beautiful echinacea flower over here. Does anybody know that was echinacea? Do you have any herb gardeners? All right. Woohoo! Good job. And they actually enhance natural immunity and build natural resistance. And that's what I love about it. We have a school teacher that we work with, and she was a kindergarten teacher. She just moved to 3rd grade this year, but before she started working with us, she had a lot of health issues, and she was sick quite frequently during the school year. As you can imagine, working with lots of people in an environment, whether it's a bank or a school, and you guys know that well here, it catches and goes around, and it seems that it can be easy to pick up infections sometimes. But we can do things to strengthen our own immune system. And after last year she was on a program to help support her immune system, and she was working on a couple other issues also, but during the school year, and she did not have any long cold spells like she had been having every year in the past, where she was sick for, like a week or even 2 or 3 days. She didn't miss any school throughout the school year for colds and flus and things like that. So she's really excited about that, and she made sure she was all geared up before school started this year, so to keep her immune system healthy. So it's really great. And I know that if you guys know Sherry, she's a client of ours and a good friend, and she has a really great health story too. So if you have time sometime, she'd love to share that with you, I'm sure, and just how the herbs and natural supplements have helped boost her body and her system and helped us heal. So we also work with children a lot. One of my favorite little guys, he was sick quite a bit, and leaning on that asthma tendency, and just constantly in and out of school, and his immune system does quite well, and he's doing really well now with some great formulas that we use for children just to naturally boost them. And that's the thing, is that herbs and supplements are healthy for babies, kids, up to the elderly, all the way through. And that's the great thing. And they can also be, specific to you of what your body is needing and requiring now. Okay. Now, I'm not to say that antibiotics are completely unnecessary at all times. There's some cases where they are life-saving and necessary and that type of thing. We want to look a little bit at our biological terrain. And has anybody heard of the argument back and forth of the terrain versus the microbe or Louis Pasteur. Are you familiar with Louis Pasteur? You've probably heard of him a little bit somewhere back there. He's the pasteurization guy, right? Okay, so we know that basically the biological, the germ theory states that the microbes are a direct cause of the disease. So that's the germ theory, that we have these germs, they come in, you have disease, okay? Then the biological terrain theory states that germs only invade weakened tissue, and rather than being the direct cause of disease. And it kind of a quote that goes with that, or an example, an illustration of that is, if you have garbage, a pile of garbage, and you have flies, maggots and flies on that, did the flies and the maggots create the garbage pile? No, they didn't, right? The garbage pile drew them there. It's because it's degenerated, weakened stuff, garbage. And so if we keep the theory behind that is we keep our body healthy, we keep our pH balanced, which is a big, thing that we talk about and like to throw around. But if we're putting good food in, getting good rest, and all these things we're going to talk about, then we are resistant to disease naturally. Our body throws it off. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's kind of the direction we're going with this. And a lot of people, they looked at this quite a few years back, and Louis Pasteur was big into the germ theory, and famous for that. And actually on his deathbed, he actually come to the conclusion, he admitted on his deathbed, this is wrong, and the biological terrain theory, that we just do really need to take care of ourselves. So it's interesting how you can research something going to prove one angle and then actually find out, oh wow, this was right, I disproved myself. So it's always good to keep learning and keep an open mind for sure. All right, and here we just have a few little bits of information how bacteria and infections are very clever. They produce spores that allow them to survive in extreme conditions. If you throw an antibiotic in there and there's only 10% left, say it kills 90% and the 10% are left, it will mutate and re-thrive and grow again, which is why you get those recurrent, disgusting infections. It won't go away time and time again. Okay, and they actually can swap genes, construct a biofilm, which is like a little saran wrap bubble around them to help so that they're resistant to the antibiotics. So they're smart little guys. So, all right, so what can we do? Now the good stuff. What can we do to help prevent? Let's go back for a second in case you didn't read all that. What are some things that we know that you guys have heard and things that are good to help prevent yourself from getting colds and flus? Keep your immune healthy.
Wash your hands often.
Wash your hands often. Good. What else?
Fruits and vegetables.
Eating fruits and vegetables, very good. Eating organic fruits and vegetables, they put a lot of good nutrients, different vitamins and minerals and colors in the body. Colors is a really good thing to vary your colors in a salad. You want different colored fruits and vegetables because they all have different antioxidant compounds. What else? What are some big immune vitamins that you've heard of?
Vitamin C.
Echinacea.
Vitamin C, echinacea, both very good. Yep. Anything else? Those are probably the two biggest ones, I would say. Okay, so we definitely have clean eating on our diet and lifestyle list of things that we can do, and this makes a huge difference. When we're putting sugar into our body, and it suppresses our immune system. 1 teaspoon of sugar can suppress our immune system up to 8 hours. And the average can of pop has 10 teaspoons of sugar in it. And that's just one aspect of it, despite that it's pulling minerals out of the body and all kinds of other fun things that we don't want. So the more we can get away from processed flours, the white flour, the white rice, those types of things, and go closer to the ground, less processing, the better off our health is going to be. And it may not be like, oh, you did it for one day and tomorrow you feel amazing. It can be that way. But those small choices that we make over a long period of time make a huge, huge difference. All right. So some specifics we can throw in, especially for immune, would be garlic, ginger, and onions. Garlic and onions are high in natural sulfur compounds, which are great for the immune system. I mean, how many of you eat garlic when you feel like you're getting a cold? Anybody? Oh, you got one of them back there. That's great. I told Nancy, asked me, she's like, is there any just if snacks we should have today, like talking about the immune, I'm like, yeah, something with lots of garlic. But I knew since you all should probably work with people the rest of the day, that might not have been the best. I said, well, if everybody eats it, it would be okay, but you can go home and eat your garlic tonight. So, and actually, that's why a lot of people use our high potency garlic. That way they don't have to smell like garlic when they're taking the garlic supplement. Garlic is a very simple and very strong, potent antibiotic. It's just amazing. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But onions have some of the same compounds, and ginger as well, which ginger is great for stomach. It's as far as the immune system, it's good for nausea and morning sickness in the stomach, but especially for the immune system. It's a expectorant. It breaks up the lymph movement, and so it helps. Like if you have that tight cough, or if you have, you're just stuffy and congested, it's going to help break up that mucus and get the lymph moving. So people can eat ginger in their diet. They can drink ginger tea. They can also take a hot bath with ginger in it. We recommend that a lot of times at night. To soak in there about 15 to 20 minutes. And put a quarter cup to half a cup of ginger in there, probably a quarter cup if you're just starting. And that can be very good at inducing sweating and getting rid of some of those toxins. So those are some kind of fun homework projects you can try. All right, and we know herbal tea is really good for the immune system. Green tea is good for the immune system. Of course, our vitamin C and D and zinc, big key hitters for the immune system. And when we're under stress, we use more of those vitamins up. So we want to make sure we're putting in a good base of vitamins on a regular basis. And other things would include exercise, rest, laughter, prayer, and peace. And we could spend a whole lunch and learn talking about each one of those things. But I know you guys have heard them, and so I just want to make sure we're talking about the whole picture. So, all right. Any questions so far before we just tell you about some specific things we can use? Go ahead.
When you mentioned onions, I have had people state that they avoid eating onions in their diet, specifically white onions, because their body has an issue of almost like releasing the odor through bodily secretions, like through sweat, urine, skin.
So they're smelling like onions, or they're smelling like just yuck after?
Onions.
Okay.
Like they can smell
Right.
onion in their sweat and their urine and.
Yeah, that's smelling like onions after you eat onions, and that's not unheard of. It's usually probably a little more common even with garlic. If you've been around someone that ate a bunch of garlic the day before or that day, their pores may actually give that off. And it just has to do with the sulfur compounds in it and the way that that's processed through the body. It's not, it kind of is what it is. Some people obviously have more of a sensitivity to that than other people, but it is those compounds, and they are just strong enough that the pores are getting rid of them. Now, as the body gets healthier, normally, as they eliminate more toxins out of the body, they may absorb that and utilize that differently, where they're not noticing that same effect. I think it can go both ways, actually. If the body's digestive system is kind of slow and not moving that through, then the pores are going to open up and release that out. If they were really, really clean, super clean, they might have the same thing happen also, just because of onions' natural compounds. If they're cooked, I'm guessing, almost guaranteeing they would not have the same issue, because of you lose, the raw enzymes in that. Does that answer that? Okay. All right. Any other questions before we keep going? Okay. All right. So we kind of started talking about garlic. We carry a high potency garlic that is in a base of whole vegetables and whole foods. It just helps you absorb and utilize it better. And these things also boost your immune system. And we know that one of these tablets is equal to eating one fresh clove. So if you're not a huge fan of eating lots and lots of garlic, and you want to do it this way, this is a great way to do it. We actually put this in our travelers must-have kind of list of taking high-potency garlic along with a couple other things whenever we travel, because it is a broad-spectrum antimicrobial. It's good for viruses, bacteria, all kinds of things. Anti-parasitic even. And ours has a chlorophyll coating on it, so you don't smell like garlic or taste it after you've been eating it. All right, so it actually is really good for respiratory and digestive things. So if you're having something come down, pop in a few extra garlic, it's a really great way to go. Or if you don't have any, put some on your supper, some fresh garlic, things like that. So, All right, and we have our Echinacea Golden Seal combination, which we've already mentioned. Echinacea is probably one of the most popular, if not the most popular herb supplement for the immune system that we know of and have heard of. Now, if you think of when you're doing work here in the office, if you have a big job to do, it can take you quite a while to do it. But if you have a team, if there's 2 of you or more than 2 of you working and doing that job, you can actually accomplish a lot more than each one of you could individually. Would you agree with that? Usually, as long as your team is all on the same track. And that's kind of the same thing with a lot of the herb formulas. When they're great immune boosters by themselves, Echinacea is amazing and does a lot of good things in the body. When you team that with Golden Seal, which is also a great immune herb, the synergistic combination of that is even more powerful. So that's why a lot of our herbs have been put into a combination, is for that synergistic effect to have even more of a strong effect on the body. So we know that Echinacea and Golden Seal work together. They're a perfect team, and they actually are both big antibacterials, both of them, and they actually work to prevent to spread the bacterial infection, as well as help the immune system get rid of it faster. So it can be used even in this is one, that you don't want to use in an autoimmune condition. Echinacea can be stimulating to the immune system, so in general, we would want to use a few different things if we had some type of autoimmune situation going on, because that may aggravate the condition.
Hey, Mindy, can I ask a question about echinacea here? Now, with echinacea, are you not supposed to take that more than, like, is it 7 continuous days, 7 straight days in a row? Do they still say that, or?
Some people go with that, and really you can take it longer than that. It is one that there's a lot of other choices as far as taking every day regularly than Echinacea or Golden Seal, actually. This combination would be best for like when something is coming on or you already have an infection.
Okay.
And then you could take it easily for 2-3 weeks without any issue. I know that a lot of the old recommendations are 7 days, and that's okay. But if you want, if you were doing it for like 10 to get rid of this cold, that's gonna be fine. It's not going to be a severe issue like that. Yes?
What do you mean by autoimmune conditions?
Things such as fibromyalgia or lupus, situations like that where autoimmune means that the immune system is attacking itself. And so if we stimulate the immune, then we may trigger more of a reaction, with what they're dealing with, those types of things. Yep, very good question. Anything else? All right, now this one is immune stimulator. And how many of you guys have heard of mushrooms being good for your health? That was kind of a big thing in the news probably a couple of years ago, the reishi mushroom and the maitake and all these weird things. And we're like, okay, sure. But actually, there's lots of studies, and in traditional Chinese medicine, they use different types of mushrooms for health in lots of different ways. Now, this formula has a few different mushrooms in it. It also has the colostrum, which we mentioned before, and some other great immune factors. So this actually strengthens our immune system and helps the body produce more T cells and more macrophages, which the macrophages are big guys at the front line of defense, and then our T cells are more down that chain a little bit, but both are good. This can be taken every day throughout flu season, winter season. You can take this every day, all day long. It can be taken for, a cold that's coming on or something like that. It can also be taken, it's used a lot for bad cell conditions or where there's a tendency for that and that type of thing. All right, and some people will take that, to support their own body system to prevent things, other chronic diseases coming down the road. And again, this is one that's probably not going to be your best choice for an autoimmune condition either. Some people can tolerate it, and they just advise you start slow with that. All right, elderberry defense. Anybody heard of elderberry for immune stuff before? We think of elderberry cough syrup, right, usually? And probably our grandma had some elderberry cough syrup in the cupboard that she made herself, probably. And this is a great viral combination. Really good for those viruses, coughs, things like that. It speeds recovery. A lot of people take this on a daily basis just to prevent colds and flus and things like that. Interesting thing about the royal jelly, which we do use royal jelly by itself sometimes, But the queen, when bees are hatched and they're larvae still, they're fed for 2 days this royal jelly, which is something that's made when the bees chew in their mouth, but they don't actually swallow it. They just chew this stuff up, and then they make royal jelly. And so the royal jelly is fed to these larvae, and in 2 days they become adult bees, basically. And so it's that power packed of nutrients that, and then that's all they get of royal jelly. Then they go on to eat whatever else they eat, the pollens and things. But the queen bee, she gets royal jelly all her life, which is why queen bees, they live really long, and they have this great health and longevity compared to all the other worker bees, because they're eating the good stuff. So it can be really good for our bodies too. It's amazing for our immune systems. It's chock full of nutrients. It's kind of a powerhouse. So you can kind of add that to your powerhouse list of superfoods and things, is some good quality royal jelly. Now I like it in this blend just because it gives you some energy. Well, because usually when our immune system's down, we're tired and sluggish, and you got to try to get through your day, and all you want to do is curl up on the couch. And this is great because this product actually, besides helping fight the infection, it's also giving you some energy and good nutrients that you need. All right, VSC. I took this one out and then I put it back in because it's one of my favorites. And VSC is a Chinese herbal combination, and this was brought to us in the 1980s from a traditional Chinese medicine doctor from China. He brought it to the United States and was originally trying to work with the drug companies on it who were not interested. And we got a hold of them and we're like, yes, we're very interested. Please teach us all you know. So we have this wonderful formula. It was originally designed for herpes. And since it's VSC, we know that's really good for viruses. And it has lots of lovely Chinese herbs in it, as well as dandelion and purslane and some other things that we are familiar with. And this comes in a liquid and capsules. So we can use it that way for children, or if you don't like swallowing pills, it's really good either way. This would be one of mine to have on hand. Elderberry and VSC, and the one we're going to talk about next, are really great to have on hand at all times because they're just going to nip something right in the bud for you. All right, Silver Shield. Who's heard of colloidal silver or silver? Who's taken any silver? Okay, some of us. Who's afraid they're going to turn blue if they take silver? Okay. Well, nobody's going to turn blue if they use our Silver Shield, and that's always an interesting conversation. But basically, you want to look at the purity of the product that you're taking. Our Silver Shield technology is actually smaller than a colloidal particle. All colloidal means is it's the size of the silver particle that's in the stuff you're taking, and nano is just one step smaller than that. So we know this is broad spectrum. Silver Shield tastes like water. It is even proven in our patent it will kill MRSA, it will kill staph, and they've used it in Africa to kill malaria, which kills people like flies over there. People die, and this has been used to stop that over there, our formula. And so this is really, really important to have on hand. It's so effective for the immune system. It's so safe. I mean, silver has been used as an antibiotic for hundreds of years. That's where the phrase, have you heard the phrase, you've been born with a silver spoon in your mouth? Does anybody know where that comes from? It comes from Europe during the Black Plague. The rich had real silver that they were using. And so that's the phrase, you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You were rich or entitled when you were born. But that was used also as an antibiotic and prevention of some of that spread. So, and this doesn't get metabolized by the body, so it's not changed at all. It doesn't damage the kidneys. It doesn't destroy our good bacteria. You can use it in your eyes. We have people put it in their ears for an ear infection and all kinds of things. So it's really great. It comes in a liquid and a gel. And this is my absolute favorite. Some of the people that, when you're making Silver Shield at home, because that's a big popular thing right now, is not Silver Shield, but when you're making colloidal silver at home, because you can buy your own, silver making kit, that would, be okay in some cases. I would caution on long-term use of that internally. That's where you're not going to, I really seriously doubt you're going to turn blue. There's a whole thing with that. But, you do risk a little bit of contamination there just because the particles are quite larger and you don't have that quality control. But that way you know, like, oh, well that's that and that's okay, but if I'm going to be taking internally every day, I probably want to do this. So just some information for you. Okay, and then we have some essential oils, our tea tree oil. Did anybody use tea tree before? Okay, what have you guys used it for? What have you ladies used it for?
Massaging.
Okay, good.
It's good for fungus too.
Very good for fungus. Very good antifungal.
Abrasions, scrapes and abrasions.
Yes, absolutely. Bug bites, even cuts, yeah, absolutely. Very good. It's very strong oil. Some people will use it instead of a tetanus shot. A lot of people will do that. It's that much of an antimicrobial, and it is pretty well non-irritating to the skin. It does have a strong smell, but it is an essential oil for those of you that this is new to. It's just a little guy, because it's a very strong, potent part of the plant, and so it doesn't take very much, just a drop or two. But this can be used externally, it can be used internally on occasion. I wouldn't want to use it regularly internally for a sore throat maybe, or something like that. But you can rub it externally on your chest or things like that for cold and flu application. Okay, and we'll actually pass that one around so we can smell that. Well, I think we'll do the Thai food oil instead. Thai food oil is it's actually a blend of essential oils that we have, and this is something that I travel with all the time because it's little, goes everywhere, and it can be used for colds, flus, headaches. We smelled it last time when we were here, so we'll pass it all around, and you can put a drop or two on your hand, rub your hands together, and then inhale, and it'll open up your sinuses in your head, and you'll be ready to focus and go back to work. Maybe you'll remember more. Okay, the other fun thing that I have brought for you guys to sample is our Soul Stick Immune. So when we're done, feel free to come up and grab a little sample of that. And that's basically, we can kind of call it performance water. It's a little powdered stick, and you can carry it in your purse or your car or your bag or whatever, and then you can add it to your water. And the immune one, we have different formulas, but the immune formula has vitamin C in it, has vitamin D, has beta-glucans, which were in one of our formulas, and a few other immune-boosting herbs, and this is great. It's great for prevention, it's great for kids. If you have a sore throat or that dry, scratchy throat, it's great because you're drinking something that's soothing that. And it has a nice pink lemonade flavor. So come up and try some of that, and that's another great thing that you can have on hand. All right, so we know that, just real quick, we want to throw in that we know that stress lowers our immune response. Maybe not as much for you during finals week, but I do know that your seasons get busy also, where lots of paperwork is due and things like that. So we want to kind of keep that in mind, because usually, when do we usually get sick if we're going to? When we're under more stress, right? Like when we have the entire family coming over for the weekend and we have 4 projects due at work and all this stuff, and then we either get sick right before that or right after that. That's usually when it happens, because when we're under stress, our body's using more vitamins and minerals up. So then it compromises our immune system because it takes them from somewhere. Does that make sense? So we know when we're under those stressful times, we want to be sure we're putting some more good core health in. All right. There's a few other essential oil blends you can use. These are just a few of them. Eucalyptus is good, pine is good. And just another tip with oils, I would just encourage you to maybe try using them even as perfumes or room sprays, like room freshener. Instead of using chemical room fresheners, it's just one more way to get some chemicals out of your life and put some natural things in, because those do have harmful effects on the body as well. And these can be used and actually have good effects, and they smell really good too when you find a good blend for you. All right, we use these as cleaners on tables or the kitchen, that kind of thing. Great recipes for that type of thing, and then you're keeping your immune healthy. All right, Guardian is a blend similar to, doesn't smell similar to Thai food, but it's a blend similar to Thai food in the fact that a lot of people wear Guardian when they are around a lot of people so they don't get sick. Okay, so we want to remember that if we support our immune system, it will support us. And that's the goal, is if we can build our system and our body up and support it, it's going to do what it's designed to do. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. I think that's all I have then.
Thanks, Mindy.